Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name's Ollie and in this week's video I'm going to be cleaning my inlet manifold. This video marks 1,000 subscribers and a year of being on YouTube, so thank you so much for supporting the channel. First of all I'm going to show you how to remove the inlet manifold from the van, then I'm going to give it a good clean and make it look nice and pretty, and then we'll put it back on and I'll show you how to reprime the high pressure fuel lines to get the van started again. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button, it's completely free. I hope you enjoy this video.
Lions roaring in the morning sun, searching for a longer day. People feeling like the light has just come. We must never stop the way. Birds chirping and I hear my name, grasping into a life. Life is happy but it's so insane. We must merely make a start. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah.
With the top section of the manifold removed, we now need to take off the bottom section, and in order to get better access to the bolts here, I'm going to disconnect these high pressure fuel lines from the injectors and from the back of the fuel pump. Just look at the carbon build up inside this inlet manifold. It's very oily as well from the crankcase breather pipe. So once we've cleaned this up, we shouldn't get any more contaminants going down the inlet, and we should get much better performance hopefully. So when you're disconnecting the high pressure fuel lines off of the injectors, it's important to hold against. So if you put the 14mm spanner on the injector, a 17mm spanner on the union, and just hold against while you crack that off. Same with this one, hold against, loosen it off like so. With the high pressure fuel lines disconnected, we can now remove them from the back of the fuel pump, where the fuel lines go onto the back of the injection pump, and we can just loosen these unions off. There will be some fuel from the lines, so have some rag ready to clean up the mess. So that's them two, and I just need to get the other two off in a minute. Let's take these ones out. You could possibly leave the other two connected, but it might just be easier because there's an awkward bolt down in there. So let's just take all of them off and we'll have to reconnect them later. In order to stop little bits of dirt getting in the injectors, I've just put a bit of tin foil over them. So now I can remove these manifold bolts. Some are a bit awkward to get to, behind the fuel pump especially. This job would be very difficult to do without taking off the high pressure fuel lines, because the pipes coming off the back of the injection pump block the access to the bolts on the manifold. I managed to get a little socket on this one down here behind the fuel pump, and that's just enough to get that one off. Hopefully, yeah, there we go. The fuel filter at the back also needs unbolting from the manifold, so just these two here. Just let that rest over this way, take all the bolts out of the manifold, and then it should just lift off. I'm just trying to take out the last bolt. It's a little bit awkward to get to. You kind of need squirrel hands to do this job, and it should just separate. I've got a new manifold gasket, so I'm now going to bolt this manifold back together, and I'm going to introduce it to some fire, and I'm going to try and burn out all the carbon deposits. So the majority of the carbon's been burnt out of this now. I'm just going to get my oven cleaner. Same with this one. It's been on there for about 10 minutes, I'd say.
Lion's gonna come. The birds have just begun. We will always take a stand for the people.
Just got a toothbrush and I'm just getting in all the little nooks and crannies.
For the animals we stand. Let's go back to when trees were swung.
Finish up with some of the old elbow grease.
Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, my beauty.
There we go, you don't get much cleaner than that. I'm just using a bit of carb cleaner to get these last little bits off. All the sections of the manifold are painted up now. I used a matte silver VHT paint. I opted to go for a VHT paint just because this is bolted onto the engine here and it might get a little bit hot around this area, and I didn't want the paint flaking off, so I thought it'd be safest to use a VHT paint. Got a couple of new gaskets as well, they're just paper gaskets. I'll put a link to these in the description below if you want to get some yourself. With this section, it's just acting as a straight through bit now. I've got my EGR blanking plate on here, and I've got a little bit of Hylamar behind this just to seal it off. A couple of stainless steel bolts in here, just to stop any unfiltered air being sucked into the engine, and I've removed the gate valve in there as well. So with those two little screws removed, we can simply pull this out. I'm just using my scraper to scrape off any bits of old gasket off of the mating faces. I've just put a really thin smear of Hylamar on the back of this gasket to hold it in place. A really thin smear because I don't want it squeezing out and going inside the engine. Right, I've got that manifold in, the gasket's in place, all my bolts are in, I've just got to tighten them up. Right, so I'm just reconnecting the high pressure fuel lines. And we'll bleed this in a minute. Screw the connections back on the fuel pump. Just get a spanner and tighten those up a little bit. So I now need to bleed the high pressure fuel lines, and I'm going to do it one by one. Right, starting with injector 1, I'm just going to go turn the engine over a few cranks until fuel starts coming out of here, and then I'm going to tighten it up. I'm going to tighten this one up now because I know I've got fuel there. Then I'm going to work my way back and do the next one. And it might want to start on the next one. Okay, so it wanted to start then. Let's tighten this one up. That's the high pressure fuel lines primed, so it should start now. If there's a little bit of air in here, we might just need to let it out by cracking off the injectors. Let's go and start it up and make sure, just before we put everything else back together. how clean that is. That's much better, isn't it? New gasket on there too. Let's put this section on, put it all back together, everything's bolted up. As you can see there, I removed this actuator part here, so I don't have the rod going across from the fuel pump to that anymore. That's no longer needed. So I can really notice a difference now I've cleaned the inlet manifold. It's got better acceleration and it just goes a bit better. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you click that little alarm bell, you'll get notifications when I post new videos. Cheers guys, and hopefully I'll see you next time.